So, hello everyone. Welcome to VRV Podcast, episode 129, our weekly podcast where we talk about everything VR. I am PJ.
I'm Wookie.
We're here talking
Hello.
to Tommy.
Hello.
Hey. So you're the CEO and co-founder of Myron Games, and you're here to talk about your game Deisim.
Yeah.
So interesting on your end. The game has been out since late 2016. You just moved to the Quest or Meta Oculus Quest storefront from App Lab. How's all that going for you?
It's going well so far. It's been really good to be there on the main store finally after such a complicated journey. And I'm really glad to see so many people playing Deisim now. There's really a lot of new players coming every day on my Discord. Yeah, it's
Nice.
very cool.
I'm kind of surprised it still seems like a kind of a mess and a lot of hurdles to get on the storefront for a game that's been out and so popular. I just kind of blows my mind that it took that extra effort to get on there for you.
Yeah, it has always been difficult for me. I think the fact that I never released a game before, was a problem for Oculus. Maybe they didn't believe that I could finish it. I don't know. Also, maybe the team of the game is maybe they were a bit afraid of that because it's religion and all that stuff. Even if I try to be really nice with that and to not hurt anybody with what I do in the game, but I understand that the team can be a bit disturbing for them. But yeah, eventually I made it, so it's possible after all.
Yeah. So going back to like the start of VR in 2016 and before that, like how did you decide, hey, I'm gonna make a VR game, and how did you land on the style that you did with Deisim?
Actually, it started when I got my first VR headset. It was an HTC Vive in 2016. And when I got my VR headset, I wanted to play games. And I started looking at games. And actually, I'm a huge fan of strategy games and management games. And yeah, there were almost none on the store at that point. I was a bit disappointed about that. I like shooters too, but I felt like that niche was really empty. There was nothing to play if you liked a game like that in VR. So I quickly tried to make something in Unity. I never made a game before, so it was like kind of hacky that I made something playable just for me to enjoy it. And when I tried it, it was very primitive. But when I tried it, I was really blown away by the thing, like seeing those small people going everywhere. And it was like a child dream for me. And so I thought, oh, this is really unique, and this is something that's worth going further and continue improving. Of course, a lot of the games just like this because of limitation of my knowledge when I started the project, and also the fact that you can build an unlimited world like this, or on PC at least it's unlimited. On Quest I had to put a limit to be sure that the game always run at the right frame rate. But that had a lot of constraints that most game doesn't have. So I had to go to a really simple but I think nice looking style to allow that. Simply, it will not be possible to make such a game with different graphics, actually.
Yeah, I was going to ask if there's a limit or not, but for anyone who hasn't played the game, you start out on a blank canvas and you just kind of start plopping some land down, and then these civilizations, depending on what you do, just kind of grow automatically and interact with each other, and they they can either be nice to each other, they can war, like it has the whole gamut, and it's pretty interesting to sit there and watch. Um, I'm always shocked that I mean to like, yeah, I got a half hour to play, I'll pop it on, and like 2 hours later, it's like I was supposed to be leaving for like something else an hour ago. Like just getting lost watching the little civilizations grow and react to each other is insane. Did you initially think that or plan that it would be that addictive, or is that kind of a shock to you? Or
No, actually, I was aware of that because it's really how I played the game in the first place. In fact, all the things in the game that are more traditional gaming stuff, like the progression, the different civilization to discover, all of that is more like an excuse to be there. But but the thing is that the rest of the game, almost all the things I've done in the game are just things to distract you from those objectives. So, oh, what happens if I do that? Oh, what are they doing? Why this guy is lazy and coward? And it's just, I just try to put the player in the. Oh, excuse me. Go
As soon as
ahead.
we get distracted, you're evil. Because if I did that, I'd be like, ooh, I'd never take the game up.
Yeah, I really try to distract the player in many ways. I think it's really what makes it magic. It's when you really get lost into it.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's really neat to like, again, for those who haven't played and Wookiee, like heretics spawn up and they tell you they don't believe in you, and you try to find them. You can like throw them out of the world. You can crush them. You can do all kinds of crazy things with them. It's kind of funny, but then it makes you start questioning yourself.
Yeah, actually, you can even convert them if you perform miracles near them and you do enough of them. You can convert them into priests. But yeah, it's like always the nice solution. It's also the more complicated one. So most of the time, you just throw them away like they were nothing. But it feels really godlike actually, because they look really like insignificant creatures to you. You start to question yourself. Yeah, as you said, am I that bad?
Do they start turning the other people against you if you don't do anything? Like create a war, like a religious war.
Yeah, they can do war. Yeah, and they cannot act against you, but they can act against your people.
Right. Yeah.
Because I really wanted to make you a god in the sense that you cannot lose. There is objectives, but it's not mandatory to do it. It's really like you do what you want, and yeah, nobody judge what you do. It's really the full experience of being a god that I wanted to convey in that game. And everything that you had that is a challenge is kind of removing a bit of that immersion thing. So I made the decision very early that if I have a trade-off to make, it's always I'm always doing it in the direction of being a god and feeling like a god.
It's surprising how many different little things, like going back to the heretics, you can do so many different things with them, like convert them or kill them or whatever. Just the amount of stuff in there that you kind of pick up as you go is crazy. Again, for those who haven't played, you don't really build towns, you build land, and then the towns just kind of happen. And then depending on what you do and how you do it, different style civilizations will pop up and new things will unlock, and you don't like choose to build anything. They just kind of do it on their own. It's really neat. It's not like a normal RTS type game. So
yeah, it's more like playing with an ant farm. You know, the humans are like autonomous and have their own will, and you just try. Okay, what happens if I change just that thing, and then they start controlling the obstacle, and they do their life anyway. But that with the new constraints you gave to them. And that's a cool thing also to say, oh, but I will just change that thing and see what happens. And so, for example, you have a really big kingdom, and then you kill the king, and the kingdom collapses. Yeah, it's the kind of thing that I really love to do. To really make you feel like you have a really big impact of the world just with a really small thing that you do, with a butterfly effect,
Yeah.
Been like a good meteor strike.
Meteor Strike is not yet in the game, but it's on my list. But I want it to be really, really cool. So
I was also kind of surprised. Again, you start with just building some land, and how quickly different civilizations started popping up. When the first time I played it, I think I had like 10 of them popped up within like a half hour. I was like, holy crap! I was like, I don't know what's going on. I was just running around trying to give them all the stuff they needed to prosper, and then I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to cut some of you off and see what happens. And is that kind of the intentional like play loop a little bit? Kind of just almost not really bombard the player, but just have too much to where you have to start choosing between cities.
It's really intentional. Yeah, my goal was really that you really feel so overwhelmed by all the things that happen that you don't want to micromanage everything. It's always in the same principle that I want to put you in the shape of a god, and I say, okay, if there is a god and he needs to manage the entire world, it doesn't want to deal with every single problem. It's also that thing that when I do a prayer, why God never answer me and help me? It's just because it's so busy,
I was just thinking
and I think when you play the game, you realize that in some way. It's kind of fun. I'm not really religious myself, but it makes me thought a lot about religion and stuff, and all the things you imagine with God, and how you feel when you play this and you see all of them, and you see, okay, I don't know the name of that guy actually, and what he does, and I just see a moment of it, and I know nothing about that single human. That's kind of cool, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the first time I had two kingdoms go at it in a battle, I was like, stop it. No, don't fight. We're on the same side. But I couldn't control them.
Yeah, you cannot. Actually, you can just kind of control one of them, but it's more like an inspiration. Try to manipulate the human to achieve your goals. So it's also that idea of all the stories about God in ancient Greece and stuff like that. That there is all those stories, and it's always the God wants something, and he needs to manipulate a human to do it for him because he cannot do it. And I really like that idea. I think it can make cool stuff. So that means, if I want war, I need to find a king that is warlike or greedy, or just not a pacifist. If it's a pacifist, I must kill him. Then you start, okay, and the prince is warlike, and the king is pacifist. So okay, let's get rid of the king. Long live the king now.
I did notice, I don't know if it was just a timing thing, but two kingdoms, like I think the kings just died from old age, maybe, and then they each got a new king, which I assume was just like their children, and then that they had, I don't know how deep it goes, but one had like a princess, like, and she was good, but her father was greedy, and I was happy to see him die, and like.
Yeah, a lot of things are not really planned. That means I really want the game to be like a story generator. So there is a lot of things that are not hard-coded in it. I try to encourage emergent behavior. So there is people playing the game that have really different experience with it, depending of how you do the stuff. Even if you do a second playthrough, it can be really different from the first one, just because the dynamic of the kingdom can be different. Also, how you shape the world impact a lot of things.
Were you gonna say something, Woogie? Okay. I also like how the aliens come into play, and you gotta either fight them off a little bit or let them go. And
That's funny.
Yeah, and they are important. I think they will be even more important in a bunch of updates. That because I didn't want it to make one civilization the bad guys. For me, I really see the thing like every human in your world is somehow your people, even the heretics. It's why you can change their mind and stuff. So the aliens has the opportunity to have something else that is not friendly, and that can be some kind of challenge. But it's a story for a future update. But it's already cool to see them coming and capturing your humans.
yeah. So again, the game came out, late 2016. It's 2022 now. You just put out another update. Got on the Quest storefront. How do you have a specific plan, like where you want to get to before you kind of move on, or like are you just currently like all in on this game? Like it just where if people keep buying it, you're just going to keep going. What's your thought process on that?
Now that the game is released on the Quest Store, my plan is kind of to work 50-50 on Deisim and on another game that I want to make since a long time. Because I got a lot of frustration making Deisim because of early decision I made, and now I have to live with them. Also think that I understand could maybe be better even for VR, but you need to make things differently to make it happen. So I have that idea of a second game that I really want to make with multiplayer in it, for example. But I also really like Deisim, and I think the game will be even better the more systems I add in it. I see the game a bit like one of those paradox games like Crusader Kings. You see the game come, it's already kind of complete, but then every update or add-on add new systems, and the game is more and more complex, and at some points it's really different. There is a lot to experiment with. That's what I want to do. The next update, for example, with pirates,
Nice.
I will not just add pirates to the game. Each time I do an update, I see it as, okay, this is an opportunity to make something different in the game, to have a huge impact of what exists. So I try to find the weak part of the game and to change them. For example, in that case, it's the trade system. It's kind of, it works now, cities are trading between each other, but it's not very interesting. So I see the pirate update as an opportunity. I say, okay, every city will have a port, and then they will have trade ships, exchange is good, and then the pirates will attack them. And so that makes a lot more interesting stuff happening also in the world, you see.
Yeah.
And then, when you have a kingdom, they don't want the trade ships to be attacked, so they will also do like ships to protect the trading ships. And so it's really a story is building again. And every update will be that level of modification to enrich the whole experience and not just the stuff that I add into it. Because there is always impact on the rest. If trading is different, the city will evolve differently too. For example, before the kingdom update, every city were trading between each other automatically. And now with kingdom update, you need the cities to be in the same kingdom, or in kingdoms with a trade agreement, and for that they need to be friends, and it depends on the personalities of the king. And yeah, it's a lot. It looks simple, but it's very complex if you dig into it, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that
I like
stuff.
go ahead.
Just saying, I love that whole methodology about that. That sounds fun. Just letting this thing take care of itself. And fun.
Yeah, I like there's a little bit of puzzle to it because like when you get to the point where they want to build weapons, it took me a bit to like figure that out. Like, okay, what do you need? It took me a couple tries to like get the right ores and things like that, and then it just kind of clicks and you're like, okay, I get it. I love that there's like no manual, no explanation, tutorial. I think some people probably ding you in reviews for that, but I love that kind of stuff where you got to just kind of figure it out by playing it and letting it happen.
Yeah, for me, it's the only challenge left in the game. It's that kind of puzzle aspect. I really love it too. It's true that it's frustrating a bunch of people. I'm kind of trying to find a good balance between that, maybe giving more hints for the people who are lost, but by still encouraging the observation and the experimentation. It's not an easy task,
I bet.
but I think it's an important part of the game. It makes you clever when you find it first,
Right.
and
Yeah.
also it also shows you that even as an omnipotent god, you can just feel lost, and try to figure out stuff. And the biggest difficulty is to make people do what you want, actually.
Yeah. And sometimes games are a little too easy in that respect. I think gamers get a little spoiled because, like, some games you play, they give you a quest to find something, and then like 30 seconds later, they start popping up tips, and it's like I was having fun looking, and then some games will actually, they hold your hand the whole time, and then they'll throw in like one quest, and it's not set up that way, and you're not used to it, where they don't tell you anything, and then you're like I think I've done that in GTA Online. They're like, oh, hey, here's a new quest, and it's like, find a laptop, and there's like 80 laptops and 4 floors or something like that, and usually there's a yellow dot on the map, and then sometimes there's not, and it's like all these laptops look the same, and you got to go. They're not set up, so I like it when the right amount of hand holding, but not like give me all the answers to how to play.
Yeah, I think the right balance is when you know that if you try enough, you will find a solution. It's not just broken, or
Yeah.
when people feel like okay, it's just they just don't want to make the weapons. I say no, it's just that they don't make the weapons. You need another civilization to make them, but to do that, you have to build more stuff. And I also see that problem in the start of the game. Some people just look the first city and they just try to make them happy, the first city, and they never build more. And then they say, oh, there's not a lot of content in the game. Huh? There's just one city that doesn't really evolve and stuff. No, you have to build more. So I think, okay, I will try to encourage them to build more.
Yeah,
but
like
I
build more land.
Yeah, I will not say, hey, you will have all those civilization. No, I just say, okay, build more land now. And then they will discover there's more civilization and more to do than just doing that single village. But it's a challenge.
I thought it was funny. I built, when it all kind of started popping up and I started losing my mind, I was trying to like make everyone happy. I accidentally made one that was kind of cut off by water, so I couldn't put any like animals for food down. So I realized that if I put it across there, they actually started swimming across the channel, and then they go over there and then bring it back. And then I put a shark in the water, and I'm like, he'll get those guys. Which I don't think that happens, but I thought it would be funny. But it's just kind of funny how like they. What's that?
No, it's also on my list actually. Actually, there's a lot of things that just people try, and I just don't think about it when I make them.
Right.
And I say,
Yeah,
okay,
PJ's
I need
unique.
to add that. Because this is the thing. Every time there's something you try and doesn't work, it kind of break your immersion a bit.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to have a big impact on gameplay, but it must do something.
Yeah.
When it do something, it's really like, oh, cool. They thought about that.
Yeah.
When normal people see a challenge like that, you're like, oh, maybe I'll put in boats and a boat trading system and some pirates. And PJ's like, give them a shark. Like, who's gonna think of that?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like you think you see the big picture, and then you see a playthrough on YouTube, and people are just trying to say, okay, I will try to make those two humans making kisses. Okay.
Breed, damn it! I want another town. And just build more
Yeah.
land.
Still, man.
Th- Those people are unique. PJ, we used to have to keep the silverware from him at the table. Like, he wasn't allowed to have the sharp things because he's. Oh.
But sometimes it's cool. For example, I used to watch a lot of YouTube video of the game, and I watched some of them, and they try to make stuff. And when I saw that, I said, "Oh, okay, it's a cool idea." And the next day, it was in the game. I did that a lot in the early days because people had so much more ideas than me of crazy stuff to do. I say, "Oh, actually, it's super cool," but I have not thought about that.
No. That's why is when with VR, devs like yourself just seem way more open to that feedback. Where traditional flat screen gaming, like you can't even talk to a company, let alone submit ideas. But with Discord and everything, like it seems like every dev team has a Discord, and you let people in and play stuff, and you get so many ideas, and you're able to smooth things out way quicker and get better feedback and make the game kind of for yourself and for the players, and it just seems like such a better process.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also because the VR games are so different. We have to reinvent the wheel actually for VR, but we can do the old tricks. But I think if we do that, we miss part of the fun, because the fun in VR is not exactly the same than when you play a classic PC game, for example. I still play a lot of PC games. But when I do that, I'm not looking for the same kind of experience, actually. When I'm playing VR, I really want to be immersed in my thing.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing, I think, in VR. Even if it's relaxing. Deisim, for example, is relaxing. You doesn't have to run everywhere and be sweaty. And it's cool. Such games are really cool too, but I think Deisim shows that it doesn't have to be like that for whole VR games.
Yeah.
So while you're working on the game and tweaking things, like, do you ever just find yourself like, an hour or two later, like you just started playing and forgot you were actually working on it and just kind of get lost?
Yeah, it happens all the time. It happens a lot when I started working on the Kingdom update, because it changed the game so much. It was like playing a new game for me.
Nice.
And so yeah, also it was more clunky, so sometimes crazy stuff happens. But yeah, it's a good metric for me. When I work on something new, I play it, and if I get lost like that, it's a good indicator that okay, maybe I'm on the right track. It's really what I try to achieve. So, and yeah, sometimes that means keeping a bit of clunkiness, just because that way crazy stuff happens sometimes, and make interesting stories.
If you over-engineer it, it takes away some of the spontaneity from the people doing YouTube video. They won't be able to. You close it off, they can't.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. Like with the heretics again, sometimes I'll take them up to the moon and just let them drop down on a village, and the whole village, you hear them just go and scream and run around.
Yeah. Yeah, I try to think about a lot of stuff like that. For example, if you have a very small world or you are in the border of the world and you make something a bad miracle, uh, the humans start to flee in all direction and to sun and they scream and then sometimes one of them reach the end of the world and they just jump, like
Yeah.
ah! Because the first time it was almost by accident that it happens. There were no screaming and stuff. I say, oh, that would be so cool, actually. But just
Be better.
they run in a direction. They don't look where they are going, and then it's just the end of the world. It can make funny situation, and it doesn't happen all the time because you have to have a really small world or to be at the border of it for it to happen.
Yeah.
But when it happens, it's like, yeah, it's so cool.
I plopped a tornado down in a city because I think they were doing something that was pissing me off. And I thought it was hilarious that like the buildings went up and the trees went up and the people went up and they landed and they stayed that way until for like a long time. Like I picked some of the buildings up, put them back, or I smashed some of them. But like the trees were just laying everywhere until they started kind of like rebuilding new houses and stuff. It was just really neat to see that the chaos just kind of stays.
Yeah, it's like you feel a bit guilty doing that, You say, oh, I destroyed everything now. Should I load my save back?
Yeah, the first time a castle popped up, I'm like, oh, I want to look at it. And I went to pick it up and I just blew it up. I'm like, God damn it. I had to wait for a while and they built a new one, but looks so cool.
That's the cool
And
thing
again,
with the humans to do
this
all they
game,
can to
I
work
love zooming in, zooming out, like just flying through the towns and stuff. Like it's just so neat to have all those different viewpoints and really get down in there. Like the models, like especially like the feudal Japan looking areas is just so neat just to really go down in there and just kind of sit there and listen to the music.
Yeah, we did a lot of work to really make that immersive, especially in the sound design. It's really different when you are looking above everything and where you are into it. We made a volumetric system that is dynamic and depends of what is close to you. So if you are in the middle of the forest, you have the small birds. If the futuristic city have a lot of futuristic sounds and weird things. But then if you are in this huge mega city and there is one grassland, you hear two birds, And if you are in that small spot of land, you just hear the birds and the rest is a bit far away, and you feel like, oh, it's like the peace spot in that huge city. It's really subtle, but if I will remove that from the game, it will look really flat.
Yeah.
Actually. But yeah, and the simple fact that you can experience the world you build at human scale, it feels really different. It's kind of funny to see the difference between them. You feel more, depending on the size you have, you don't feel the same about the humans. Like if you are really big, it's just like hands, and for you it's just like hands. But if you are like if the world was on that table, for example, then you see the humans a bit like this, and you start caring about them. So, oh, who's that guy? And, oh, okay, it's it's an industrious guy, and it's really kind. And this one is a bad guy, and say, oh, bad guy is not good, and you throw it away. And it's fun to see how differently we respond emotionally to creatures depending on their size.
Yeah.
Compared to our size.
Yeah, the
Really
first
like
time I built a
insects.
swamp and put animals in it, I was trying to get a couple people lured over to the alligators, but nothing. I never got them to quite go that far. But
For sharks, no alligators.
Yeah, that's the animals that need to be a bit more aggressive. At first, animals were just like moving resources because I needed resources, and I thought, oh, it would be a good idea to add animals to it. But I really had them like resource first. And then I saw people interacting more and more with them and say, okay, I need to make them more alive at some point. But also that thing that the animal is different depending of the terrain you throw, the miracle.
Yeah.
It's also something some people don't get. But I think it's a cool thing because then you say, oh, and what happens if I do it on that tile?
Yeah.
And each time you add something different, you say, okay, and which animal will I put on this? And like I said, it's system intersecting, and that way you just, when something new happens, you also want to see, and which animal is on it, and what happens when I do that. And I think it makes the thing really rich.
For example, for like Wookiee, if you put grassland down, you throw the animal icon on it, a deer will spawn or like a wolf. If you put down a snow part of it, I think it's another wolf, but then a polar bear, and you don't get meat from polar bears, you get fur. So that's what that one town I kind of blocked off from water. Like there was nowhere to put edible animals apparently, so they were swimming across that channel. But it's really neat, like you said, just to kind of then experiment and just see what happens when all those different things interact as you unlock them. It's really neat.
Yeah, and then it puts you in a kind of dilemma. Do I make a pretty world, but they don't have all the stuff they need nearby? Or do I make something that looks ugly, but it's very optimized? It's up to you at the end of the day. But
and that's super tough because I'm kind of, I don't know if I'd say perfectionist, but I definitely have some OCD habit because I was trying to build when I first started like perfect little plots of each like zone, and then like I ran into that problem like, oh, I can't build these things here now, like damn it. You have to build out around it, and it just kind of got chaotic. But it was really neat because it kind of like got me out of that thought process, like everything's got to be nice and tidy. And
yeah, after it you can still try to make stuff like that, but then you have to think a lot more about oh, they will have access to it. There is way to make it look nice anyway, like you said, you just put a river between them, so okay, it's kind of okay, it's different across the river, but they will go there to hunt. And I think it's cool also to see them going into the water to hunt because they need to do it. And they try to avoid it, actually. If there is a path, they will try to go by feet. But if it's too long, they will just cross the river.
Yeah, it's cool how they have little problem-solving skills of their own to kind of handle those things. It's really neat to just sit there and watch them. Like they build a dock on the water in places, and I sat there for the longest time like, okay, they're going to build a bridge here any moment here. I just sat there for like 20 minutes like, okay, now they're going to build that bridge. Oh, no bridge. Oh, damn it.
Yeah, actually, the bridge is just because for pathfinding is a bit complex because I made my pathfinding with the tiles. So something that is smaller than a tile, it's a bit complicated for me to integrate.
Sure.
So that's why there is no bridge. But with the ships, it will be different. So that means that if that's why there is 2 water tiles. I don't know if you have noticed that, but if water is surrounded by water, it becomes deep water, and that one the human cannot cross it. It's like the ocean, and only the ships will be able to. But the ships will also try to avoid stuff. For example, we had a maelstrom, a miracle with the update, and so if you put maelstroms, they will try to avoid it too, because it's dangerous, and that way you can make them not go in straight line to the other part of the world, but making interesting shapes like this with different stuff to do.
So I'm just curious. I initially played on PC VR, and then for this update and stuff, I started over on the Quest just to check it out. So when you
Mhm.
implement like an update, does that affect your current save, or does it just kind of evolve into that and you just kind of build on? I'm just curious, like if I need to keep deep water as a consideration now with this pirate stuff you're talking about.
Yeah, in fact, I always try to migrate the save files. I think if you take a save file from the first version of the game, you can still play with it now.
Nice.
Um, that sometimes, of course, that means that things that were possible in the early days are not possible anymore. But I kind of live with it at that point. I think it's more important that people still have their world that enforcing the rules. And I always suggest to start a new world, because when I had stuff, it's not only at the end of the game. In general, the impact is on the whole game, so it's interesting to make a new world to try it. But I don't want to take your world from you, so it's also cool to come back to your world and see what changed.
Yeah.
And for example, if you go back to your world after the pirate update, what will happen is just that, okay, every city will start building a port and ships and starting to trade, and yeah, you will experience the same thing as before, but with an additional layer. And yeah, it feels cool. I think that you say, okay, it's my world. It's even more interesting now to visit it.
Yeah. That'd be kind of funny. Like my main town is very much landlocked. So if you had a pirate thing to that, like would they just go to the nearest water and take that over, or?
Actually, the port is built on a grass tile, so depending of the city type, but not on the ground and not on the ocean. The boat will go in the ocean.
Nice.
But yeah, that means that I also need to find a way to kind of convert, because it's an important building. So maybe if they are a square with just houses, that is not that important. Maybe they can kind of destroy it and build the port instead. But finding the right spot to build the port is not as easy as it sounds, because you want to have access to the sea and to orient it well. It will be tricky then.
Yeah. It'd also be kind of cool to take a world you're used to, and then like with my landlocked town, that's kind of my capital, my main town. Like maybe I just turn on it and then I start sending people at it or destroy it, and then kind of move on. But that's you leave that choice to the player. I think that's a good thing, because I know when we played No Man's Sky a lot, and every time they update, sometimes the bases you build get messed with, and it's kind of like how that time spent, and then you got to go back and fix it. But it's got to be super hard to do updates with games that have been running so long too, like yours. Because potentially there's people out there that have been playing since day one that have these big elaborate places that if you take that away from them, you're going to hear about it, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's also a bit. I would say that sometimes I feel like the new stuff I had in the game may break the fun for the people who already enjoyed what it was. And it's like, is it the right decision? And so I always try to add stuff, but to give the key to the player. For example, the kingdom, they will not make the kingdom themselves. You have to do it. And that way, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to.
That's
Okay,
cool.
they will not trade and stuff, but it's your decision. So just so you not feel like you're forced by the update to play a game like you don't want to play it. Especially if you used to really love the way it was before. That's always stressful. Honestly, each time you add something new, because it's either you do something really small, but then it's not really interesting. Or you
Yeah.
do a bigger thing, but that means it may break the fun for some people. So I try to find the right balance and also to always give the key to player. For example, for the pirate update, it will be the same. If you don't like pirates, the trade ships will be there, but the pirates, you will have to add something for them to happen. So if you don't want that, it's okay.
I think it's a good way to do it because there's a lot of times where, you kind of get in how you want to play a game and then the update comes and it's like, it's too different now. And that does kind of wreck some of the fun. Like you should, I'd like to experience the new stuff, but not destroy my old stuff. Like make a new save or something to check it out before you enable it. It'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, you can say, okay, I continue my previous world with the way I used to play it, and then I make a new save, and this one I go crazy with pirates, kingdoms, everyone is fighting for a piece of land, and it's really different because if you play it the other way, it's really peaceful and nothing happens, and they are just living their lives. If you start adding kingdoms, they start fighting for every piece of land, every city, until there is one big blob of an empire. Changed the game a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I kind of want to go make Rome now. See what happens. Just fight it out, guys.
Yeah, it's
think
funny
it's
when
cool.
two of your towns start fighting and you're rooting for one and they're the ones that lose and the other one takes them over. It's like, oh wow.
Yeah, and when they destroy the king in the fight, and then the entire kingdom collapses because there are no remaining heirs. So, ooh, that battle was an important one.
So when you first got into VR, what were some of your favorite games that kind of stood out for you?
Yeah. One of my favorite thing was the lab because it showed me a lot of things. They tried a lot of different things and it was really inspiring. In fact, one of the reasons I made Deisim is in the lab they had that thing with the portal team, and there was that drawer inside it, a small world with small creatures like the small humans in Portal, used into the promotional assets that they made. And it's like you can burn them, destroy the entire thing by accident. It's the kind of experience I wanted to make for Deisim. So, like, oh, it's super nice. Let's make a game like. I also enjoyed all the stuff that they made. They really tried different things, and every one of them was really interesting. Especially at that point, it was my first VR thing, and it was so immersive. Even if it was on the HTC Vive with that grid effect on the screen and that poor resolution. VR has come a long way since, but it was already so immersive at that point. I never forget that. And I think that bow game, that archery game is still fun now. If you can play it, it's still fun to play.
Yeah, the bow game and the other game that really like grabbed me was, I don't remember the name of it, but you basically go in that little spot and you grab that toy ship and then you're just playing like you would as a kid. And you're actually like shooting things and dodging things. Like that was one of my first like mind-blowing experiments in VR.
Yeah, it was
that
really
was really
cool too. Really enjoyed it. I remember playing Raw Data also kind of at the same moment too, and that feeling you start and you are in that thing in a glass protection thing, and then there is that robot breaking the glass by giving his fist on it, and it start to crackle. And and you really feel like, oh my god, it's coming from me. uh, I think that immersion was really the thing that is really important in VR. I think
Yeah.
I played a lot of games since that I loved. It's always the thing that makes the best game for me is always the one I feel the most immersed in. The other can be fun, but I always feel like okay, it's fun, but it will be fun also without VR, you know.
Right.
Except things like Beat Saber, where really you are really active. It's
Yeah.
a different thing. Immersion is not really the point of those games. But yeah, for other games, I think immersion is the main thing, really, for VR.
Do you still, since you're developing in VR, do you still play a lot of games, or do you kind of not play as much because you always have, you work with the headset on? A lot of devs say they stop playing other things.
I admit that I play a lot of non-VR games because I'm a bit tired of the headset and I want
Yeah.
to just relax and do something. But I also play VR games. I enjoy the Little Cities, for example.
Yeah.
Or,
I was going to ask you about that one because it's a lot different but similar game style.
Yeah, it's fun. There was an overlap, but I really enjoyed it. I think they are way better than me doing a really nice interface and good interaction. It's really well made, I think. But for me, playing Deisim for all those time, it's a bit frustrating because I'm so used to be able to grab everything that all the time I'm like, oh, I want to. What happens if I break that thing? And you can't, it's just building.
Yeah.
But I really like it. It's just that I say, it's even in SimCity. I used to play SimCity when I was young.
Yeah.
Little City remind me that, and even in SimCity, you had that thing that can cause disaster in it, and destroy the half of the city, and you had that, but you had a way to activate that yourself if you wanted to. I wish they had that into the game at some point. I would love that.
Meteor strike.
Yeah. Apparently the meteor strike is really everybody wants that. Don't know why. I think I will add it to the game at the same time as the dinosaurs. I think
Nice.
it's really perfect timing to do it.
It is, yeah. Like PJ's luck with his castle breaking. He'll see a stegosaurus and be like, ooh, and it gets hit by the meteor. No.
No, but I like that idea too, that instead of animals, you can just add dinosaurs and work in the same way. But that way you have a world where when they need food, they just hunt Triceratops, and they
Like
flee for their
Dinotopia, the
life when there is
game.
a T-Rex. It's like the same mechanics, but the experience is way different for the player, actually.
So do you have a set number of updates in mind, or like things like you don't have to like say anything you don't want to, but like just kind of curious, like how as a dev with a game that's been out so long, like just kind of how you just judge that kind of thing.
I honestly, I don't know. I plan to continue making updates as long as I find cool ideas to make into the game. When I will start to feel that no, I am adding stuff just for the sake of it, I think I will stop there. For now, every time I think about an update, I see exciting things to change. For the pirates, for the stuff about space too. I see a lot of interesting thing to do. So I say, okay, it's still something that I must go deeper. But yeah. So I don't have a set number of updates planned.
Okay.
I need to see, of course, if the sales will allow me to do a lot of them.
Sure.
I think the pirate update is okay. It's guaranteed it will happen. The next one should be okay too when I see the sales. But yeah, in the end of the day, it depends if the game is successful. For now, the Quest launch has been really good, so, and people playing the game, the feedback is really good too. So I really hope that with those updates, it will also create like more and more people will come and play it.
It's awesome. I think that's a great way to do it. If you're still excited, continue. And once you're kind of done, then that's probably the good time to stop and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, because anyway, I have to test it a lot, and if I don't like playing it, it's like just okay. It's too much work then. It's just work at that point.
Yeah. Well, I know it's super late where you're at, so don't want to go too much longer. Is there anything you wanted to talk about we didn't get to, or is there anything else you wanted to mention real quick?
Don't know. Maybe I can talk about what I think about the pirate, the special update a bit. The thing
Sure.
after the pirates. I think in that update, I will try to address the main problem of the game now. That is when you reach the futuristic age for all the cities, there's like nothing to do. And that's why I see a potential with the aliens, I say, okay, maybe I will make the thing that since you destroy a bunch of alien ships, our mother ships will come. And then you will kind of send humans in the space to conquest all the planets,
Right.
And I think it could be a good opportunity to change the rules a bit. So when you are on that world, a different world, you are not in charge anymore. You are not powerful there, and you have to kind of conquer everything. A bit like in Black and White. I don't know if you played that game.
Yeah.
In Black and White, you only had an influence around all cities, and not in the whole world. And if you wanted to act somewhere, you needed first to make a biggest city so you can reach that point with your hand. I think that's the kind of thing that could have a lot of replayability too, because you could try different world and just go there and try to conquer the world. And then you will win something like a new biome that you can use on your own world.
That's
An
pretty
alien
cool.
thing. So let's imagine. It's the cool thing with Alien World. You can go crazy. You can say, okay, it's like a biome with plants that are eating humans.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that. You can go crazy. And
Low gravity is
nobody is
always fun.
forced. Yeah, low gravity could be fun too. I see. Yeah, it's kind of the idea. I think the space thing would be a really huge update when it happens. I have a lot of cool ideas for that one. It's also one of the things people really want the most. I have that feature update site where people can suggest things and vote for it. And yeah, the first one was pirates, and the second is like go to space. So I try to follow what people want to make. Yeah. What
That's
they
awesome.
want in the game and say, okay, that's what they want, but how do I envision it so it's still my thing?
Right. I think that's a really smart way to do it.
And that way we are all happy, I
Yep.
still make something I want to make, but they also have what they want. So I think it's a win-win situation.
Well, I appreciate your time, man. And I love the game. It's fun. It's super relaxing. It's super enjoyable. Like I said, I lose track of time easily. Have a lot of fun, and those updates sound amazing. I can't wait to see those come to fruition and what you do with those.
Yeah, I think you will love the pirate update. I'm sure.
Arr, yeah.
Everybody loves pirates, but I am cheating a bit for that one.
Nice. Well, thanks again, Matt, for your time and joining us and sharing your stories. It's great to hear it.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah.
I was
Congrats
glad
on
to
the
be
good
there.
work.
Glad to meet you.
Good.
So
good
everyone
luck with the
listening,
update.
watching, there'll be links to the game in the show notes. It's available on Steam, Meta, Itch. I mean, you everywhere available. I think you have it out there, so there'll be links to that.
Everywhere. If it's not, it's coming.
Cool.
All right. Thanks everyone for watching and listening.
Goodbye.
Catch you next time.
Stay safe.